Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. It is a Tuesday edition of the show, and we are doing it because the Bucs played on Monday night, and unfortunately, their season ended as they fell to the Cowboys 31-14 in the Super Wildcard round. So now we're wondering what's next for Buccaneers, and they go shape up the coaching staff. We obviously talked a lot about Byron Leftwich, and we will continue to do so on today's episode. I'm your host, Matt Matera, and joined with me is my fellow colleague and the newest member of the Pat McAfee Show. It is Scott Reynolds. Scott, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Matt? I'm hanging in there. I was questionable for the podcast, dealing with the nasty cold today, but I was a game time decision. But I'm ready to play. Let's do it.
Yes, and we appreciate you doing your Michael Jordan flu game to be here for today. Obviously, a lot of news running rampant with the Buccaneers, as it is for any NFL team when the season ends. What changes are going to be made? Who's going to be here? But obviously, when you're talking about not only just the quarterback position, but the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, the news goes tenfold. And then the Byron Leftwich news as well, which got you on the Pat McAfee Show today as well, talking about that. That's going to be one of the major discussions up until there's any news about Brady, about Byron Leftwich. Right. But as Pewter Report reported, the Bucs are expected to fire Byron Leftwich, and there will be a new offensive coordinator coming to Tampa Bay this season.
Yeah, we felt very confident in reporting that. I still stand by that. Todd Bowles was asked about that today in the press conference, and I'm going to read you verbatim his statement there. We'll get to the video in a second, but just so we can address it here. And if there has been a decision made to move on from Byron Leftwich as offensive coordinator, he said, no, there hasn't been any decision. I didn't expect Bowles to say anything other than that unless he was going to announce today that he had fired Byron Leftwich, which he didn't. And he was asked for his assessment next of Byron Leftwich. He said, I don't have any assessment right now. We are evaluating players. We meet as a coaching staff later in the week. I'll meet with individual coaches as well as the staff, which we do every year, and we will make those assessments then. Then he was asked kind of like a last follow-up question about this on if he foresees any coaching staff changes. And he said, like I said, I will meet with the staff at the end of the week, and we'll talk about everything then. I don't want to sit here and say we are talking about things when I haven't even talked over things with my coaches. We do our yearly assessment, just like we do with our players. So, what Todd Bowles is doing is he's doing what a head coach should do. He's using his assistants to do the year-end evaluations. He's asking for the position coaches, for the coordinators, to do their assessments of the players, so they have those done, filed away, and then he's going to meet with his assistants and make some future determinations about their future serve with the team. And just because it didn't happen today doesn't mean it's going to happen. We're just ahead of the news here. It's I've got it from multiple sources that there's going to be a change, and this has been a long time coming. So it's Todd Bowles' prerogative to do that change whenever he sees fit, and it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen just because it didn't happen today.
And for the record, you wrote that the Bucs are expected to fire Byron Leftwich. That doesn't mean that they were going to fire him an hour after the game or even 24 hours after the game. It just meant that there will be a change at offensive coordinator coming up sooner rather than later, I would imagine, because Todd Bowles doesn't want to fall into the same situation that he was dealt with last season. So, John, thank you for the $10 super chat.
Yeah, appreciate that very much.
That's essentially the answer right there. And also another thing that you have to factor in, listen, not every coach and player wants to talk to the media and answer questions, especially after you just got eliminated from the playoffs. And a lot of the questions are going to be like, why did you struggle this year? Why were you bad at that? So if you're Todd Bowles, would you rather not make the decision yet, talk to other coaches, talk to players as well? Because we spoke to some players. They had their end of the season meetings with Todd Bowles. I'm sure Todd Bowles asked a couple of the offensive players, what do you think of Byron Leftwich as an offensive coordinator? How do you think the offense was ran this year? So Todd Bowles going to get as much intel as possible. And
Yeah.
if you're Todd Bowles, would you rather fire Byron Leftwich earlier in the day, knowing that you're going to speak to the media later at 3:30 like he did?
Right.
Or would you rather, again, gather all the intel as much as possible, do your press conference, say, I haven't made any decisions yet, and then
Right.
decide to make a change with Byron Leftwich at offensive coordinator where you don't have to answer anybody and not
Right.
have a camera in front of you? It was the right move by Todd Bowles to not make that decision earlier this morning.
You're right. From a PR standpoint, not Pewter Report, but from a
Yes.
public relations standpoint, it's a savvy move. It's we'll address the media, say haven't really talked to anyone about it, and then whether it's later tonight, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's later in the week, he could make those decisions. And then Todd Bowles does not really have to speak to the media until the NFL scouting combine, right?
Yeah.
Which is like the first week in March this year. So we may not have any time to talk to Todd Bowles about these upcoming changes. I'm just being completely transparent here. PR will blame it on bad sources. Journalists never take responsibility for anything. That's not true. I mean, if I report something that's not true, I'm happy to say that that we messed up or whatever. But that's not going to be the case here, and I'm extremely confident in my sources. So.
Right. So just wait and see. Just be patient.
Yeah.
It didn't happen yet, but it is going to go down. And also, to your point of he's not going to have to talk until the combine in Indy in late February,
Right.
early March. Then the questions change to what do you like about the new offensive coordinator that presumably you hired at that point, and not why did you fire Byron Leftwich? I think
Boy, you nailed it, Matt. You absolutely nailed it. He would rather talk about the new hire than the firing, right? He'd be more eager to talk about this is my new staff rather than these are the guys that we parted ways with, and and why, right? Without having any replacements there. So I think that's the case. Reynolds keeps teasing me with the Todd Monken talk. That would be one way to get me instantly optimistic about next year. Yeah. I'll say this. I think the Buccaneers are going to be looking at a lot of options. I don't think they're going to rush this decision. I think they're going to try to make the best hire possible for the Bucs organization to get this offense really back on track. I was on the Pat McAfee show today, and I did some stats, just a little bit of homework there. Todd Bowles' defense, say what you want about him as a head coach, the game management and the deciding to go for it on fourth down or punt or long field goal. There are some legitimate game management questions about Todd Bowles and some of the things that he did this year. And I think he owned up to some of those today in the press conference. He talked about how they let some of these games early in the season get away from them. He wanted to clinch the division earlier in the year. And he said we, meaning he and the coaching staff, it wasn't just the players. But I think when you look at Todd Bowles' defense, there were 10 games where Tampa Bay's defense allowed 21 points or less, right? 21 points or fewer. And I think in this day and age, Matt, you can win by not surrendering more than 21 points. If your defense gives up 14, 17, 20, 21 points, I think you should have a legitimate chance of still winning the game, right?
Absolutely.
That's not a Herculean feat to overcome. It's not 31 or 34 points or whatever. So the Buccaneers did that 10 times. So out of their 17 games, they gave up 21 points or fewer 10 times. That's more than half the season. And they were 7-3 in those games. Some of these games were like a 14-12 loss to Green Bay, where, gosh, a little bit more offense and they win a winnable game there. On the flip side, when you look at the offense and you compare using that same measuring stick, the 21 points, how many times did the Bucs score 21 points or more in a game? It only happened 6 times this whole year. That's less than half. And they were 3-3 in those games. So it just goes to show you how lopsided this team was. Defense did its part by and large.
Yeah.
The offense did not.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were still going there. I'm absolutely with you. In today's NFL, if your defense allows 17 points or less, that is an absolute victory in the NFL. And I think we all know a majority of the issues for the Bucs this season was primarily on the offense. I think if you take the same exact defense, which Todd Bowles talked about that he wasn't exactly happy with the pass rush and the sacks that they were getting from a 4-man pass rush. We'll play that video a little bit later. But I still think if you shout out to Matt Scott for the McAfee flu game. If you take that same defense, though, I still feel, I don't want to say supremely confident, but I still feel pretty good about that Bucs defense. I know they messed up last night. That wasn't their best performance, but if you improve the Bucs offense and keep it relatively the same on defense, this is a team that's going to win 10 games and, clinch the division with much more ease than what they did this year. We got a super chat from Robbie Leary. Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Says, is Lavonte David coming back? Initially, I was more confident that Lavonte David would either return to the Bucs or just, retire and say, hey, I've had a good career. I'm done. But the way that he kind of spoke yesterday after the game and talking to him in the locker room today, he said, of course, I would love to retire a Buck, but I got to think about what I'm going to do.
Right.
I feel like that kind of left the door open for, hey, maybe a team will overpay for me. And then maybe go the Bobby Wagner route a little bit. I know the Rams obviously struggled terribly this year, but the idea of, hey, you could still be a starting linebacker, presumably want to go to another team that is pretty good. Levante David and Tom Brady come back this season. I don't totally know if I would want to stay with this Bucs team because you're going to have a huge, huge question mark. So Lavonte was asked about retiring a Buck, and he did say, of course, and what it would be like to be in the Ring of Honor one day, which I think we're all in agreement should absolutely happen whenever he decides to retire.
No doubt.
So we're just going to play that video real quick of one of the greatest defensive players in Bucs history, Lavonte David.
Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't? You know what I'm saying? They entrusted me 11 years. I've been captain 8 or 9, 11 years. So definitely enjoy my time there. And I would love to finish my career, but like I said, just got a lot to think about right now. So I'm just going to take this time to just, embrace this moment, free time that I have, spend time with my family and go from there. I mean, obviously it'd be incredible, and how my name go up in pro football over in the stadium and stuff like that. As a kid, you never really thought of something like that, but, now that's possibly can be a reality is just, kind of mind-blowing, and then going up to next to guys like Derek Brooks, you kind of like watch and kind of idolize and one day we actually played with. So it's incredible. I ain't really think about it till now. You just mentioned it, so it's definitely an incredible moment in my career.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Lavonte David stay. I really would, but when you see a fixture like Bobby Wagner, I think that was a spot-on comparison there, Matt, on your part. Leave the Seahawks organization and go to the Rams. Maybe at first he thought, wow, I'm going to the defending Super Bowl champs, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't exactly. It was like going from the frying pan into the fire, unfortunately for him. But it really just depends. I think you're going to see Tampa Bay in free agency do a lot of one-year deals. I believe this organization has some buyer remorse over a contract like Russell Gage, which was a 3-year deal. And I believe that and the Leonard Fournette deal is the same way. I think going forward, at least in the interim, as they try to transition out of the salary cap hell to a degree, they will be going more towards 1-year prove-it deals. Carl Nassib comes to mind. Keanu Neal comes to mind. Leonard Fournette after the Super Bowl year comes to mind, Matt. And we'll see what the market is for Lavonte David. I would not be surprised if he hits free agency. I would not be surprised if Jamel Dean hits free agency, and the team sees what they're getting. And then the decision is the players. Do you want to take less to stay, or do you want to go get paid and play elsewhere?
And I understand that the Bucs are financially in a pretty tough spot, and that's why they will have to do a lot of one-year prove-it deals. But they also really need Lavonte David. I mean, depending on what they do in the draft and depending on what other veteran free agents are out there.
Yeah.
But if you have...
So you didn't like KJ Britt biting down and blowing contain on the easy bootleg touchdown? You didn't like that?
Didn't love KJ Britt out there. I
either.
think you see why they released JJ Russell before the playoffs. So obviously Ryan Jensen could play. You could see why Olakunle Fadukasi was let go before or in the middle of the season. They don't have an answer as far as a backup inside linebacker goes. They can get away with it at corner and safety. Well, they didn't really get away with it with Zion McCollum, but they had a better option with SeanMurphy-Bunting. We saw the depth that they had at safety, out linebacker until last night. Outside linebacker, but inside linebacker, they are razor thin on the depth chart at that position. So would not shock me at all if they draft an inside linebacker this year, or again, really tried to fill with the veteran player. We do have a super chat from Cam. Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. I like this question. What hurt more, this year's playoff or last year? Now I'm going to look at this from the eyes for a Buccaneer fan. We call it right down the middle. We try to be fair and objective. I would say for Bucs fans, I think there's two ways of looking at it. The way that I would look at it is that this year hurt more because they weren't even in the game at all. At least last year against the Rams, you had the satisfaction of, oh my God, the Bucs tied it up. Brady does it again. They're going to go to the NFC Championship game. And I know that got taken away on the blitz and Stafford hit Kupp down the field, but at least for a moment, you could see the Bucs going to the NFC Championship game, and then it got taken away. But at the end of the day, you're still losing in the playoffs, so it's going to hurt either way.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna adjust this question a little bit for you because I want the answer to this question. What hurt more, that playoff loss to the Rams last year, or this season? Right? Did this season, the frustration, the sting, right, of some of these crazy losses, the Panthers game in Carolina, the Steelers loss where they basically had Cam Hayward and nobody else. Mm-hmm. So which was worse? Like the slow death by 1,000 cuts during the season,
right?
Or just getting the head chopped off with the Rams loss? Which was more painful? The long agony of this frustrating season, this 8-9 season that was turned into 8-10, or just the finality of we're coming back, we're close, and then Cooper Kupp.
It's the death by 1,000 paper cuts. It has to absolutely be that, because the last thing as well, for losing the way that they did against the Rams in the playoffs last season, you at least were thinking, okay, well, they had a really good year, won the division, 13 wins. Brady comes back. They're going to be right back in the same spot. And it just didn't happen at all. Where this season, it was the same mistakes, the same idea of slow start on offense, defense keeps you in, Brady does something crazy at the end. So, this year was way more frustrating and aggravating by a long stretch.
Yeah, I just remember, too, catching a lot of flack from fans because I think I had the 11-6 prediction.
Yeah.
And I was the one who wasn't 13-4 or 14-3, whatever some of the predictions were. I was the low man on the totem pole, and I was getting crucified by the fans. What are you doing, Reynolds? You're picking the Bucs to lose 6 games? Well, you know what? In hindsight, I like 11-6 better than 8-9, right? I think everybody does. That's Leo, fair. Appreciate the super chat here.
Thank you, Leo.
I imagine Brady. Oh, and by the way, my predictions absolutely sucked. I mean, I think JC was probably the worst, and then I'm like one above him. Josh Capo, hats off to him. I am not good at picking week to week. I'm not. My bookie bank account is 0 because I did horrible my bets this year overall. I know a lot of things about the Buccaneers. I am not the go-to guy when it comes to picking individual weeks, wins and losses. I don't know. It's crazy. Leo, $5 super chat. I imagine Brady wants to know who the offensive coordinator is going to be before coming back. I think that's fair. I don't know if he's going to have any input in it, Matt, but he's going to want to know who it is, right, before he commits to possibly coming back to Tampa. So when do you think they will make the decision and inform Brady? Well, Matt, we're going to be at the Senior Bowl in a couple weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if this drags out a little bit. I think they want to make the right decision, not a hurried decision. And I think they want to interview a lot of potential candidates. And even if that means, they're talking to somebody and then somebody else offers that guy some money and he ends up, going elsewhere, so be it. I think they're going to take their time and they want to make the right hire here, because this is critical, right? This is critical for two people. Todd Bowles, who may start this season on the hot seat to a degree, right? I mean, with the losing record, even though you won the division, you're add on the playoff loss, you're 8-10. Okay, so it's important for him. He's got to get this hire right. The Glazers have fired Lovie Smith after 2 years, Greg Schiano after 2 years. It can happen, right? The other guy is Jason Light. Jason Light's, this is a what have you done for me lately league. I think Jason has done a very good job overall in building a Super Bowl contender. This is no longer a Super Bowl contending roster. It just isn't. The 8-9 record says that it's not. Did they let a couple games get away? Yes, but they also lucked out in a couple games too. So it kind of goes both ways. So Matt, most general managers don't get a second head coaching hire, right? He walked in the door with Lovie Smith in 2014. Lovie picked him. He ends up firing Lovie, right? He promoted Dirk Cutter, which at the time seemed like a pretty good idea for continuity with Doug Martin and Jameis Winston, right? The offense wasn't the problem. So that seemed like it was a reasonable idea at the time. That's technically head coach number 2, but choice number 1, correct? Then he fires Dirk Cutter and then throws a Hail Mary and connects with Bruce Arians, gets him out of retirement. They win a Super Bowl. That's head coach number 2, right? Head coach number 3, really, but the second one he's had a hand in bringing to the table.
Correct.
Now he's on head coach number 4, Todd Bowles, the third coach that he's helped bring to the table, right? He's signed off on this. Bruce is like, hey, I'm out. Jason, Glazers, I want to tab Todd Bowles as my successor. Jason signed off on it. That's why he got this year as the head coaching job. He's on head coach number 3, Matt. I don't know many general managers around the league that get to pick head coach number 4. I just don't.
Yeah, specifically for Todd Bowles. I understand he got dealt a tougher hand with the not being able to, pretty much pick his own coaching staff and specifically offensive coordinator. But for Todd Bowles, more for Todd Bowles, but for Jason Light as well, you only get one shot to nail this offensive coordinator pick.
Bingo. You nailed it.
The tough part where you're kind of putting a square peg into a round hole is you want to get the right offensive coordinator. You also want to get the offensive coordinator that's going to attract Tom Brady to stay in the NFL and stay in Tampa Bay. But you also have to have the frame of mind that Brady's probably only playing one more year if he does come back. So you also have to thread the needle of finding the offensive coordinator that you obviously want to be successful for more than one season with Tom Brady. Who's that guy that's going to attract Brady, get your team back on the right track, and then also be great when you have another quarterback coming in, whether it's a rookie, whether they go the veteran route again.
Yeah.
It is a tough ask, but that is what Todd Bowles and Jason Light really have to do this offseason. I'll tell you what, though, Scott.
Yep.
One thing that
well
is
said,
not,
man. Well said.
Yeah, thank you. One thing that is not really a tough task at all is when I'm choosing an energy drink, I'm going to be drinking a Celsius energy drink, which is the official sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast. We love Celsius for a variety of reasons, starting with the variety of flavors that they have. You got the Arctic, tropical, and peach vibes right there. You can also go with the cola flavor. I was having a strawberry lemonade this morning to get my day going. It's an awesome substitute as well for coffee. If you want to mix it up, try something with a little bit of a different flavor, and flavorful it is. It's the healthy version of an energy drink. You have 7 essential vitamins, 0 sugar or preservatives. So you don't get that post-energy drink crash or jitters that you might get later on with other products. Have a Celsius and you're good to go. If you want to find out where to get a Celsius, go to the store locator, punch in your address, and it will set you up with the closest local spot, your convenience store, Walmart, Target, or your bodega. And once you go to your bodega and you're like, I love coming to this bodega and getting a singular Celsius, but I want more. I still love you, bodega, but I want it in bulk. That's when you go to Amazon, click on subscribe and save, and start getting Celsius in bulk. I'd recommend getting the variety pack because variety is the spice of life. And why have one flavor of Celsius when you could have multiple flavors of Celsius? Have it sent to your house or apartment whenever you want, a week, a month, quarterly. Whenever you do it, just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast. Hashtag Celsius Live Fit, hashtag Celsius Energy. We had a couple more super chats to get to.
Yep.
Super chats are rolling in, so we appreciate every single last one of you, both in the comments and super chatting us. I want to make sure I don't skip over any.
I'm just going to throw this up. I appreciate all the feedback in the Pat McAfee show. And, it wasn't SR crushed the Pat McAfee show. Pewter Report crushed the Pat McAfee show. I was representing Pewter Report, and this is our first time on the Pat McAfee show, and it was a great platform. I mean, 2 million subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, folks, we have a YouTube channel ourselves, Pewter Report TV. We do not have 2 million followers or subscribers, but we're on our way to 10,000, and we want you to be a part of it. If you have not subscribed to Pewter Report TV yet on our YouTube channel, please do so. And please hit the like button. When you hit the like button on all of our podcasts, all of the interview clips, the press conference clips Matt puts up, or our interns put up on our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel, it helps our algorithm. It helps get our content in front of more Buccaneer fans, more awesome Pewter people like you. So please help us out. We're so close to 10,000. We could really use your support. If you've already subscribed to Pewter Report TV, thank you. If you haven't, make sure you do that today. We greatly appreciate it. But I enjoy being on the Pat McAfee show, and I appreciate the comments. It was fun to talk Buccaneers on kind of like more of a national platform like that, and spread the PR brand. So
yeah, and they ate it up too. They absolutely loved it. They obviously AQ Shipley is familiar with the Bucs organization. He was there when they won a Super Bowl, but
no doubt,
a lot of great, credible information that they were able to digest, and it was great. It was great. It was informative. It was funny. It was the perfect blend of Pewter Report and the Pat McAfee show. And then he spelled it out at the end, which is great as well.
Yeah, we love that.
Pooh Shimmy, thank you for the $2 super chat.
Yes.
Can you break down how Gedeke and Jensen played? That was obviously a big storyline going into the game because Nick Leverett was unavailable. They called, I don't want to say called up, but they activated Ryan Jensen off of the IR. He started at center. Luke Gedeke started at left guard. I thought Jensen looked a little bit rusty overall. I think he still brought the physicality and the tenacity, got a 15-yard penalty, but also shoved Micah Parsons, got him out of the huddle.
Right.
I thought Jensen was okay, maybe missed some opportunities pass blocking wise, but I think that's going to happen when you haven't played in a long time. I would have to go back and pay a little
I've not
bit
watched
more.
the film. I watched it live. I'd have to go back to make an honest assessment. Now, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Gedeke and Jensen didn't play that well. I don't think they were stars of the game by any means. They gave up some pressure in the middle. Really couldn't run the ball that effectively. Maybe a credible job, maybe subpar. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and watch the film. But we do appreciate that, and we will. It's just this game ended last night.
Yeah.
We were up.
We had a
through
lot of
the night writing
stories.
Yeah.
Mike Reynolds, thank you for the $5 super chat. Great job on the Pat McAfee show today, Scott. The moment they realized, shiitake mushrooms, this guy's a pro, was glorious. Yeah, it was hilarious. Pat McAfee's the man. He's mentioned us before, which is really cool, and then to actually be on the show today was awesome.
It was really cool because I really enjoy the show. I don't watch all of it, right? But they do a great job of posting clips on there.
Yes.
I tune in for Aaron Rodgers. Very informative segments with Rodgers. AQ Shipley, I think, does a fantastic job breaking down, offensive line play, especially offenses. I really dial in. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and I'll tell you what, I would not be surprised if he ends up as a coach in Tampa. I know he was an assistant or like an assistant to an assistant. He was a
player. Yeah, he was a player.
Right.
And then he had, unfortunately, the injury that ended his career, but they immediately put him on the coaching staff. So he was kind of.
And then he wasn't on the coaching staff this year.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the coaching staff next year. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying that he's got some friends and allies in the building still. And that's just a name to possibly keep in mind. I don't know if he wants to, be an
Right.
offensive line coach or not.
Yeah.
He's very good at it, but he's got some allies in the building.
And he's got a fun gig with the Pat McAfee show.
Oh, yeah.
Over there.
Super smart guy. Really enjoyed being on with him.
Mike Sember, thank you for the 99-cent super chat. Appreciate it. If you have a comment later, we will put it up.
Yeah.
We got another $10 super chat from John Spilatopoulos.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that right. Sorry if I did not, but he says.
I think you nailed it, Matt.
Yeah, I think
really
I did.
Yeah, I think you did.
He says, honest question, ... Do you guys really want Brady back? Well,
that's a great question. It really is.
It is a great question because I wrote this earlier. I just did a story, pretty much Tom Brady addressing what his future is, when he's going to make that type of decision. And part of what I said in one of the earlier paragraphs is that I still think Brady's playing at a high level, but forget the stats and everything like that.
Yeah.
Just the eye test. It was his worst year in his 3 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No doubt.
I don't think there's really any argument there. I think that's why you see the touchdown production went way down. It was 43-40 or 40-43-25. So a huge drop in the numbers there. Yes, he broke the record for number of passing attempts and completions. Well, if you're breaking the record in passing attempts, it probably means you're down in a lot of these games, and that's why you're chucking it all over the field, and that plays right into the comeback wins and games like last night where you got to throw 66
pass attempts.
Times.
God, it's unreal. Do I really want Brady back? I would say yes, for a couple of reasons. And I'm just being completely candid with you. You wanted an honest question. We're going to give you an honest answer. Yes, Brady's good for our business. He's good for the media.
Yes,
he just is. The amount of new Buccaneer fans that have come on board, and maybe they're Brady bandwagoners, so maybe they'll leave once he leaves. We'll see. We'll see what our numbers are this year if he doesn't return. But he's good for our business. He's also, I think, good for the brand of Tampa. Tampa is a small town, right? It still is. It's or a small city. Right? I'm not trying to knock Tampa. I've lived here for 27 years now, 28 just about. But he's really helped put this area back on the map and bring respectability back to the Buccaneers. And I don't necessarily want that walking out the door when he leaves. I don't want him taking that with this team. And each draft class that comes, like this 2023 draft class, if Brady's gone, they will have zero Brady effect. That they will have zero soaking up like a sponge, what Tom Brady is and the preparation and the intensity, what that's all about. They're going to miss that completely. So for the next generation of Buccaneers, and we're only talking about, 6 or 7 draft picks, a couple undrafted free agents, maybe 10 players. That's about 20% of the roster. I kind of want them to experience what Tom Brady is like. But I want the Tom Brady that will stand in there and throw the ball and take some shots and not, throw the ball leaning back and throwing it in the dirt because he doesn't want to get hit. I understand it, man. I'm 50 years old. I feel like 40 years old because of age rejuvenation. But still, even at 40 or 50, taking hits is different than taking hits when you're 25 or 30, Matt. So I understand that on one hand, but they've got to get him more protection up front. They've got to be able to do that so he can get back to being more daring in the pocket. And I'm not saying he's got to get clobbered in there. I'm not saying he's got to stand in there and do 5 and 7 step drops and hang in there like a Bruce Arians offense. Maybe a new offense has just some different ways to get receivers open where he's not hanging onto the ball, waiting for these comebacks and curls. I don't know. I want to see new offensive plays, man. I mean, this Arians offense works great when you have 4 studly targets in the passing game. When you have 2, it is antiquated. It just is.
Very much so. I think that was a great way that you expressed all of that. I'm going to answer the question and say, yes, I do want Tom Brady back as well. And really my reasoning would be, I know there's other options out there outside of Tom Brady.
Kyle Trask.
Well, yeah, Kyle Trask, the only guy under contract right now, quarterback for the Bucs. Sure, you can go through the draft, but let's remember the Bucs have a higher draft spot because they did make the playoffs. You could go a veteran route like Derek Carr if the dollars and cents make sense. I know there's options, but someone legitimately tell me who is an upgrade at the quarterback position for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over Tom Brady. There is no one, not even Kyle Trask. There's no one either in the building or that you could bring in that has more chemistry with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and all the other guys that we talked about this season. No one has better chemistry than Tom Brady. No one understands what the abilities of the offensive weapons are than Tom Brady, and no one knows the faults of the offensive line better than Tom Brady. So I'm with you. He's got to throw the ball with more confidence in terms of being willing to hold on to it to make the big play down the field, or get a new offensive coordinator that'll have a more shorter passing game where, you rely on Rachaad White to break tackles like he did in yesterday's game, or really just put Trayvon Diggs spinning around over and over and over and to get the first down. Chris Godwin, great at the yak. Not when it's a freaking screen pass at the line of scrimmage, but you could throw a 5-yard pass to Chris Godwin. There's a good chance that he's going to get you the first down or set you up at 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2. So there's more than one ways to move the ball down the field. And Bruce Arians, great offense, great coach. You can still be as productive and not just go vertical down the field all the time. I want to get to the super chat next, so thank you to Joey Buono for the $9.99 super chat. Going to play a video of Tristan Wirfs very soon after this comment as well. Joey says, swapping Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs could be a good way to boost the left side while keeping the right side solid without using outside resources. Any inside knowledge on whether that's something on the table? So we've actually talked about this before, Scott. I think we are both advocating for it to at least move Tristan Wirfs to left tackle. I mean, he's an anchor on the right side. He's second year All-Pro this season after an All-Pro and a Pro Bowl last year. He is a cornerstone player on this team. It's tough to find a great offensive tackle. He's played some left tackle when he was at Iowa. It's something that you can't really make the switch in the middle of the season, especially with the injuries that both of these offensive tackles dealt with this season. But I strongly recommend that the Bucs have to put resources into getting Tristan Wirfs in here as early as possible to at least practice and attempt moving to the left side. He said it's like wiping your backside with your other hand or throwing with your opposite hand. I get that. But, I mean, this guy's going to be on the team for over a decade. They're not going to let him leave. So why not just make a guy that you already know was great? And I understand it's an adjustment, but he can get the job done moving from the right side to the left side with the right amount of time and practice.
This guy can jump out of a pool. Okay, he's an athletic freak. Like, he can literally stand in a pool and just jump out of the pool like the Hulk. And so when you have a guy that's athletic, you don't say he can't until he proves to you that he can't. So I would definitely give him a shot at the left side. It's harder to find a really, really good or even dominant left tackle than it is a right tackle. And so I'm with you. I at least give him a shot in OTAs and see how that transition's going, pencil it in. And with Donovan Smith, you really have to be concerned because he's entering a contract year, right? I think he's going to be 30 this year.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So he, he's not in the twilight of his career, but he's definitely on the other side of the prime, right? He might be still in his prime in terms of athleticism and can he still do it? But he's over the hill, not all the way down the hill, but he's cresting the hill.
Right.
He's coming off his best year in 2021 and his worst year now in 2022. How do you balance those years out? Should you still keep Donovan Smith on the roster? He's going to cost a king's ransom this year because it's the final year of his contract. So maybe you want to sign him to an extension to lower that cap number, but do you want to commit yourself to a player if this 2022 version of Donovan Smith is the new normal, right? He had a lot of issues, some tragic stuff that happened off the field that he dealt with. And so you have to weigh that in. How much did that weigh on Donovan Smith and disrupt his concentration? The organization, I've talked to multiple sources, they believe that it has. This is not Donovan Smith being lazy or Donovan Smith just not giving a damn. There is some real life issues that happened that negatively affected his play, unfortunately. And so, but you owe it to the team to field the best starting five, the best 53 on your roster. Should Donovan Smith be a part of that? More importantly, should he be the left tackle for Tom Brady or another quarterback? I like your idea, Matt. I think you have a gem in Tristan Wirfs, and you don't know what you don't know. So try him at left tackle. What if he is, Matt? What if he's an all-pro left tackle, not just an all-pro right tackle?
Yeah, exactly. And that would just add to his Hall of Fame resume. Hey, he was an all-pro on the right side. Look what happened when he moved him to the left. He's even better. And I do think we have to take everything into consideration for Donovan Smith. You know, he takes a little bit of time away from the game in the offseason. Maybe he comes back like refreshed and ready to go. You don't know how much that could play a factor into it as well. So we did speak to a couple of Bucs players today. You know, players were cleaning out their lockers, having end of the year interviews. And we spoke to Tristan Wirfs. Of course, he won the Mark Cook Memorial Good Guy Award. So typically you're going to talk to Tristan Wirfs a lot. And he had some good answers today about just how he would describe how this season went. And then at the end, he had a funny answer about what his pick would be Tom Brady to bring him back to Tampa Bay and play another season for the Bucs.
It's hard to dig ourselves out of, but you know, we did our best. We were fighting until the end. But it's frustrating. Oh, that's a good one. I think a lot of people say frustrating. There's a lot of frustrating points. You know, a lot of highs and lows. I think us as an offensive line, you know, we went through a lot of stuff, but you know, just kept battling. You know, I think that's really the story of the season. You know, we're battling, you know, week in, week out. You know, regardless of the situation. So, you know, I know, you know, my group of guys, you know, very resilient. You know, I love them to death. So, yeah, it was an interesting season. I mean, it might have been. I don't know. You guys know how I feel about Tom. I love him. So, you know, whatever he decides to do, you know, I'll be happy for him. I'll probably just twist his arm to stay, you know, but it is what it is. You know, I love him.
You have a pitch for him?
Shit, he gets to. Me and him gonna play together another year. That's my pitch, you know. But no, I love him, and you know, I'll be happy for him regardless. You know, he's the best quarterback of all time. So, yeah, love him to death.
Let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. I know the Bucs aren't playing anymore, but you can still bet on players for all the NFL games coming up in the divisional rounds of the playoffs. Some really fun matchups to watch. And you don't have to limit yourself just to the NFL. They also have picks that you can make in the UFC, in hockey, basketball, baseball when the season comes back, and golf as well. So a lot of great options at Underdog Fantasy. I'm particularly a big fan of the pick'ems and the rivals. It's the easiest way to get some action on all the professional sports with their pick'em and rival games. You just pick an over or under on your favorite or least favorite player stats. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. You pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your pick'em slip. Get every pick right and take home some cold, hard cash. Use the promo code Pewter, that's P-E-W-T-E-R. Get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog Fantasy. Even if you learn from Plant City Math, you know that is a heck of a deal. So one more time, that's the promo code Pewter, P-E-W-T-E-R. Get your first deposit doubled up to $100 with Underdog Fantasy.
Yep. This kind of goes right into what Tristan Wirfs was saying about Tom Brady and the sales pitch to have him come back. When does TB12 have to give the Bucs this decision by? I think they want it sooner rather than later. At the same time, the season just ended. They're not expecting it tomorrow or this week or next week, but I think they would like to have it by the time the combine begins. That's probably 2 weeks before the draft. I'm sorry, before free agency starts. Mm-hmm. So I think they would want it sometime in February would be ideal, just so they can make some plans. And they're still going to evaluate free agent quarterbacks. They're still going to evaluate draft prospects at the quarterback position. So they're going to do their due diligence regardless. But I think that's the timetable. You know, the interesting thing too, Matt, we've talked about Brady a little bit here. I'm curious about a distraction-free Tom Brady, right? He came back this year after I'm going to retire for 40 days. And then I told Giselle, now I don't want to do the whole vacuuming and stuff. I want to play football, right? That decision, right? I'm not privy to Tom Brady's, personal life by any means, but I think that decision, the sudden retirement and the unretirement, that was fraught with some angst. I think that's fair to say, because a couple months later they're divorced, right? Past the summer. So, what does a distraction-free Tom Brady look like in 2023? Right? What is a guy that says, you know what? I want to come back. I'm not satisfied with how I played. I'm sure as hell not satisfied with the 8-9 record that my team had in the regular season. I want to play with a healthy Ryan Jensen, not a guy out there hobbling trying to do it because we needed him in a playoff game. We were desperate to try to win, even though we weren't the better team. I want to see what a distraction-free Tom Brady looks like. A guy that just kind of loves the game and goes all in right from the beginning, without the 10-day hiatus for training camp, and without there were times, man, we saw him. He didn't look happy during practice. I think Tom Brady is usually pretty darn happy on the football field. That's his sanctuary. But now I think that the gray skies are gone, and it would be interesting to see a recommitted, refocused Tom Brady, how that player would show up in 2023.
There's a lot of yelling and screaming with Tom Brady this year. And I know we'll get the tablet smash from time to time each season, but it did feel like the yelling, and not like a let's effing go type of yell, just
Right.
like an angry, frustrated yell was a lot more common this year. And I guess you could say, well, that's because they went 8-9, now 8-10 on the season. But it would be interesting. We kind of talked about it with Donovan Smith, but for Brady just to wipe the slate clean, I'm sure his family situation will be a lot more figured out at that point, between moving the kids around and when he's going to see them and everything of that nature. I'm not going to speak too much more about that because I can't put myself in his situation. But I think, he would come into next year with a lot more peace of mind, and that can really go a long way. I mean, there was throws that Tom Brady missed during the season, and I think even in yesterday's game, early on, he had Russell Gage open 15 yards down the field, and he just overthrew him.
Yeah.
He just overthrew him for no other reason. He was open. There was space. The blocking was there on the play, and you just overthrew him. There were times that Brady still has the talent, the arm strength, everything else, the zip to get the ball there, and he just really missed it for whatever reason. So I wonder mentally, how many times that really messed with him. And I think Bruce Arians is a guy that he said it a lot of the time that 90% of playing quarterback is from the neck up. So obviously that has to play a factor. I love this question from Colin. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Beers with Nacho or Ryan Jensen?
That's easy.
So I think are you going with Ryan Jensen?
Ryan Jensen. He's bringing the brisket, man. He's going to have some sort of barbecue with him. You're not going to just have beers with Ryan Jensen without food.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So, and I love Nacho to death. He's
We've
one of
had
my
dinner
go-to
with
guys.
Nacho before.
We have had dinner with Nacho. Yes. But
I actually I have a quick funny story about Nacho recently. So for Bucs fans and Pewter Report fans, you may have seen on our social media, we came up with a fun little photo last week where it was like a lunch cafeteria and a bunch of tables, 4 people to a table. Which table would you sit at? And we mix it up like an offensive player, a defensive player, both from this year's Bucs team, a historical Bucs player, whether it's Rondé Barber, Derek Brooks, and then either a coach or we threw in Buck Nasty and a mascot. And so it was very random. And I went around to some of the players that were at a table and I said, excluding the table you're sitting at, who would you pick? What table would you sit at? And I went to Nacho, and Nacho, he was at a table because he wanted to see where he was sitting first. It was him, Tom Brady, Jake Camarda, and I'm forgetting who the last person was, but he's like, at the picture, man, I'd be flaming the GOAT, making fun of him the whole time. So Nacho really liked the experiment, and he was kind of getting on Tom Brady's case in a comical way. So I'm going to pick Nacho just because he's going to make me laugh the whole time. He's an awesome dude to interact with. So that's why I'm going to pick Nacho with that one. I think you're muted, Scott.
I'm muted. There we go. I just unmuted. Sorry to blow my nose. I've got this nasty cold happening. But yes, you'll be spitting your beer out a couple times with Nacho from laughter. So it's either laughter or brisket. You can't go wrong with either Nacho or Ryan Jensen.
No, you cannot. And Mike WP69, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Mike says, "Great show, Scott and Matt. Thank you. I think it might be our best one ever."
We got about 10 minutes, but so far this is the best Pewter Report podcast we've ever done. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
I wouldn't be surprised if Brady returns. I think it's more likely than playing for another team. Am I way off? We've talked about this a lot, but you're going to super chat us, so it bears repeating, and we will say, if you got to look at a lot of the other situations, the grass is not always greener, Scott, as you have said before. The 49ers, when it once looked really appealing, they got a pretty good situation with Brock Purdy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At first, Brady wanted to go to the 49ers. They said, no, we've got Jimmy Garoppolo. Sorry, legend. Sorry, GOAT. We don't need you. And Tom was like pissed off at the 49ers again. Now, if you were to go back, we've got Mr. Irrelevant, the guy that beat you, Brock Purdy. Yeah. No. Sorry, GOAT. Sorry, GOAT. Stay in Tampa or go to the Raiders or whatever. So,
and then so people want to say, so the Raiders, the other situation there, the team is way worse than the Bucs, like roster-wise, offensive line, offense, defense. You're playing in a way, way tougher division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, so that's pretty tough. The Dolphins seem committed to Tua. I think that one could still kind of be on the table, depending on Tua's health. But then again, you're going to the AFC East. The Jets are a quarterback away from being a contender. The Bills, obviously, are a great team. I don't think there's really a better spot than Tampa Bay. Nashville does intrigue me a little bit, Tennessee, for Brady, because they have a lot of good pieces. They lost A.J. Brown, so they're not as great a wide receiver, and he obviously has a relationship with Mike Vrabel. But I think his best option is to play for the Bucs next season.
I agree. I do. I was going to say here, Gino with a $10 super chat. Any Jim Caldwell talks for offensive coordinator? No, I've not heard that. We haven't really heard any names yet. I think the two guys that I've written about that make the most sense, Todd Monken, I know that he's been talked about at least or discussed. Don't know how serious the team is about that. They should be. He's a hell of a play caller. If you watch the Georgia Bulldogs over the last 2 years, they won 2 national championships, and his play calling in that national championship, it doesn't get any better than that. You let up 65 points on anybody in the national championship. That's pretty damn good. And then Bill O'Brien would be the other one. Bill O'Brien, if he doesn't go back to New England to reunite with Bill Belichick, which I'm hearing that there's a chance that happens, that could be somebody Tom Brady has connected with. That was his quarterback's coach and play caller during his time in New England. And that could be somebody that he has some NFL experience, and then he went to college, right? And that Alabama offense was actually ranked 4th in scoring, one spot ahead of Todd Monken's Georgia team. So Bill O'Brien, 4th ranked scoring Crimson Tide over Todd Monken's 5th ranked Georgia Bulldog offense. So either one of those guys would be tremendous. They both have NFL experience, of course. With Bill O'Brien, you've got that New England connection with Brady and with Jason Light, and he also has some head coaching experience from the Houston Texans days where he took them to the playoffs a couple times.
Also, wouldn't rule out Frank Reich. That's a name that we've talked about a little bit. But I think with Frank Reich, kind of like Todd Monken as well, the Bucs aren't going to be the only team that's looking after him. So it's not like the Bucs just have everybody at their disposal. These are just some of the candidates that we're talking about. Thank you, Mike Semmer, for the $4.99 super sticker. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you to William for the $2 super chat. I believe Bill O'Brien is the offensive coordinator for Brady to stay. It's obviously intriguing. They have history together, and it would make sense. And it probably would convince Tom Brady to come back, or at least it would give it a good shot. Again, the other part of that equation is, what about after Tom Brady isn't there? Is it still the right fit? So obviously that's why the Bucs are going to talk to a lot of people. Cam with the $1.99 super chat. Should the Buccaneers go for another wide receiver this draft?
Yes,
absolutely. Yes. I don't think Julio Jones is going to be back. I think, as you said earlier, buyer's remorse with Russell Gage. We do hope Russell Gage does get better. He has a concussion. He stayed overnight in the hospital, but he tweeted today. It looks like he's doing better. The Bucs absolutely need another wide receiver unless they're going to try to rely on Devin Tompkins and Scotty Miller. Both fun guys to watch, but not an ideal solution
Right.
at that position. I see
Yeah.
one other super chat.
Well, I was going to say real quick about the wide receiver in the draft. This is not a great wide receiver draft. This is not a very deep draft of wide receiver. Tight end, it's flush. There are some great tight ends in this draft. Receiver, not so much, although there are some really intriguing guys. The guy I like is Boston College's Zay Flowers. He's a tremendous player. Reminds me a lot of Antonio Brown. Quick, separator, fast, clutch hands. And I think this team needs to get faster. I think they need some real speed on offense because with Mike Evans, he's a long strider. He can get some separation, but it's not anything quick. It's not immediate. It's kind of down the field. Godwin still is not separating like you would want him to, and that's understandable coming off of a torn ACL. He was lucky to kind of play this year, and he is better now than he was at the beginning of the season, Matt. But Russell Gage hurt his hamstring. He was not the separator they expected him to be. They need some juice on offense, and I think that they might even look at replacing Leonard Fournette and pairing Rachaad White with more of a speed back to help them, and folks, we've appreciated all of the super chats that you've done, that they've helped us. And, if you, what are we going to do with all of this money, Matt? What are we going to do with all of this money that we get from the super chats? And we appreciate, all of you Pewter people for bestowing that upon us, this end of season love, which is great. Well, we're probably going to invest it. And if we're going to invest it, it's going to be at Muni Financial.
At Muni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude,
congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Muni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Muni Financial, 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, but not just in Florida. And what I mean by that is Muni Financial, they're licensed to help you all across the country. So even though they're located in St. Petersburg, they can help you all across the state of Florida and all across the country. They've helped clients since 1980 with advisory services, brokerage services, legacy and retirement planning, investment banking, insurance services, annuities, and sales and trading. So if you're looking for a place to invest some money, make some money with your investment, and if you're looking for a company that wants to help you plan ahead and stay ahead, well, you found them. It's Muni Financial. Give them a call at 1-800-868-6864 or visit them on the web at muni.com.
I think we had one super chat that we missed. So real quick, as we close out the show, I want to say thank you to Teddy, who Teddy is always consistently giving us super chats and up in the comments. So wanted to make sure we got to Teddy's as well. He says, Luke Easterling's tweet says it best: hire the best leader to be your head coach, not the best play caller. Hope Bowles has a plan to do that next year, because this season looked and felt bad, like the old days. Yeah. I think kind of one of the themes of this podcast today is clean slate. I think Bowles getting to have his own guys in here, still being able to run his defense and hopefully an upgraded offense. Like you pointed out earlier, the defense, they can have games where they allow less than 21 points. This offense, I don't care who's their third wide receiver next year, who their fourth is. When you have Brady, Evans, Godwin, and throwing Rachaad White and maybe Leonard Fournette next season, that's still more than enough to get you 21 points and more. So, a lot of it's going to fall on Todd Bowles. A lot of important and tough decisions to make this upcoming offseason.
Yep. Malcolm Hawthorne with the last comment. We appreciate all the comments. And we're going to do another show tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern. No, is it 4? We're doing 7 tomorrow.
We're doing 7 tomorrow.
Another primetime show.
Yeah, another primetime show tomorrow.
The absence of Antonio Brown was also very big for the Buccaneers, plus losing Gronkowski. Losing those two players dropped 10 points a game from the offense. Not to mention less touchdown production from Mike Evans, who had 14 touchdowns last year, only ended up with 6 this year. That's 8 less touchdowns. That was big. So speaking of big, this was a big show, Matt. This is a big day today. We appreciate everybody who checked out our content on pewterreport.com. Folks, we rule the offseason. If you're looking for offseason content, the Buccaneers, draft, free agency, coaching plans, this is the place. Make sure you stay tuned to the Pewter Report podcast tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern, where we're going to top today's show and have the best Pewter Report podcast ever. Appreciate you guys very much. For Matt Matera, I'm Scott Reynolds saying we'll see you tomorrow night on another